This is the Buffy and Lamar Show.
Great show.
This is the Buffy and Lamar Show.
Great show. Thursday.
This is the Buffy and Lamar Show.
Great show.
What's happening, everybody?
This is the Buffy and Lamar Show.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is the Buffy and Lamar Show. I am your host, Lamar Quincy, alongside the co-host of the century, Janita M, aka Buffy.
Hey.
What's up, Buffy? Not much. So today on the show, we wanted to do something a little bit different. Not really different. It's not that different. But with everything going on in the country and in the world right now, surrounding the death of George Floyd, we felt it very, very necessary and very appropriate to actually have some dialogue. So,
and more appropriately with Black men.
Black men,
Get
right?
their view on things.
So what we did is I personally reached out to a few of my family and friends whom I consider, stand-up Black men, in their families and in their respective communities.
Mm-hmm.
And we started with a small group, and that group may grow, but we wanted to have just some dialogue about, how they were feeling right now, what some things that we as men can do going forward, because things like this, us dying at the hands of police officers, we definitely feel like it's something that cannot continue to happen, and we need to get organized and be on the same page when it comes to us as men. So great conversation, and
I wasn't there, but
Buffy wasn't there. She's not a man.
no, not a man.
So we had a great conversation. So we want you guys to check it out. Hope you all enjoy it, and thanks for tuning in.
Bye-bye.
We go ahead and get started. I don't want to take up all of everybody morning. So y'all can hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right, cool. So I really wanted to have this conversation, man, because, obviously I feel like with everything that's going on right now, everybody's feeling, upset, angry. I know for me, like I pretty much went through every single emotion that you could probably possibly go through during this time. And I wanted to, just have a conversation with, some people that, I connect with. I know all of you, so I pretty much sent out this personal invitation to everybody, mainly because, I know, I've known you for a while. You're either family, or I know your character. I know what type of individual you are. I know you're the type of person that's going to stand up for, pretty much what you believe in. And I feel like, in order to be impactful, I think a lot of people make the mistake of trying to be impactful on such a large scale that they miss the point of really trying to be impactful just in the immediate surroundings and the people that surround them. So I figured that, we could get together, just have a conversation, and ultimately it's like try to figure out, what we all could do as individuals from this point on, because, the country is crazy right now. The news is crazy. I'm so disappointed in just politics. I'm disappointed in the media at the way that they're handling the situation. And, I just think that us being, Black men and stand-up individuals, we may not have points of view that we agree on completely on everything, but one thing that we can agree on is, and one thing that we do have in common, is the fact that we all Black men, and we pretty much tired of, what's happening in this country to us. Personally, I feel like, because I'm trying to figure out, my son's 13, so I'm trying to figure out the best way to actually approach a conversation with him. I've already had the police officer conversation with him, but I also want to make it clear that we are not the victim. You know what I'm saying? Like, we strong individuals. Like, it's strength on this phone call right now. You know what I'm saying? So, for another community of people to feel like our lives are expendable, I'm just like, yo, that's not it. You know what I mean? Like, that's why everybody's tired of it. It's like, yo, you can't just do that. So I just kind of want to get where everybody's at right now. What you got as far as like ideas? What do we do next? What are we asking for? I personally feel like I know what we asking for, but I don't think everybody knows that. So I just ask if you keep your line muted if you're not speaking, and if you have something to say, just go ahead and unmute your line. So if anybody want to start off and got something you want to share, because it may be points that I thought of and somebody else may not, and vice versa. So where y'all at right now? Like, how y'all feeling right now?
Honestly, there's so many like emotions going through my head. Like just the anger and just I'm upset because I really don't know what to do. I don't know, what approach should I take? You know what I mean? Like, you know, is like I don't know if we peaceful protests, but I feel like that hasn't really brought us anywhere. But then I don't agree with the looting either. So I'm in a situation where I don't know what to do. I don't have any plans. I don't know, like I'm more frustrated than anything else, just because I don't know. That bothers me, I think, more than anything. You know, like I work with students, mostly students of color, mostly Black and Latino men, and they calling me and discussing things, and they don't know what to do, and they're scared, and I don't have the answer. I'm still like trying to educate, but I gotta educate myself. I'm trying to make sure they're calm, but I'm like frustrated. So it's like I don't even know what route I should take.
Right.
So I'm just really frustrated.
I just want to add in, if you pay attention to what's going on the news, right? So yesterday I was watching the news. Actually, the past couple of days I've been watching the news, trying to pay attention to actually what's happening. And it's definitely two different narratives that's being put forward in the news, right? So I don't know if you guys really pay attention to it as much, but I watch Fox News, and I also watch CNN, and I also watch NBC, MSNBC, and I also watch C-SPAN, and I watch all of the news networks, right? And the narrative that's being pushed forward, you kind of pay attention to, because I turned to Fox News the other day, and I noticed that if you pay attention to all of the video bites and the sound bites that they push forward on Fox News, everything that they are showing as far as looters is concerned is all black. It's all black men and women, right? And then, when they're showing a city where it's mostly white people in the crowd demonstrating, whether it's peaceful or not, most of the video bites, you can't really see their faces. They just showing like B-roll shots of fires and stuff like that, and it's really not showing the full spectrum of what's happening. Because in DC, a lot of the protesters was white, and what they're saying right now is that there's other groups, extremist groups, white supremacists, that are coming out here looting and trying to pass it off as Black Lives Matter, or pass it off as a left extremist group. What they call it, what is it? After, what's the name of the group?
Antifa.
Antifa, yeah. They're trying to pass it off as Antifa. So it's definitely two different narratives being pushed forward. Chris, I definitely get the frustration. I feel like at this point, man, like if they don't pass some sort of law enforcement reform soon, things is only going to get worse. I was talking to my wife yesterday, and I'm like, imagine what's going to happen if this police officer doesn't get convicted. You know what I'm saying? Jazz, we can't hear you, yo. You got to unmute yourself.
You got me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Listen, I just want to I want to interject though. But listen, what we have to understand is that there are two different groups of people that are out there. You got protesters, and then you have looters. They're not the same. You know what I'm saying? Most of the people that are looting, I mean, as far as the way I see it, are opportunists. A lot of those people that are looting are opportunists. But the protesters, they are people that are really angry about this situation what occurred. And another thing, the only difference between what's going on now and what's been going on is we have access to video. This is nothing new. This has been going on forever since the transatlantic slave trade. This has been occurring, but there has been no video. That we haven't had access to this on a worldwide scale like this. You know what I'm saying? So it was inevitable that this was going to come to a head. It was inevitable because technology. That's the only thing. It's not like a group of like police have gotten worse or a certain race have become more have developed more of a superiority complex. No, it's been that way. We just have access because everything that was in the dark is now in the light. You understand? And the origin of this country was white supremacy. It was racism. You understand? So however you create something, it's gonna fold that same way. God can't bless, when they say God bless America, how? America was stolen from Indians and kidnapped slaves to build it up. How could God bless something like that? God doesn't have his hand on this country. And I hate to say it, but it's inevitable that this thing is gonna be destroyed.
So what do you think that what do you think? I mean, I definitely see things getting worse. I'm gonna say that.
Nah, facts.
Things is definitely gonna get worse.
I wasn't trying to say that we should develop a sense of hopelessness.
No. I get what you're saying.
You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying too.
Yeah.
And if I could just hop in, number one, just, you know, it's 8 here, so I'm just sending all good energy and blessings to you, brothers. Number one, I just had to think, what is motivating me right now, right? It's not hate, it's not anger, it's really love for my people. You know what I mean? Waking up every day and just like, I love my sister, I love my dad, I love my cousins, I love the brother that's walking down the street that's going through the same struggle and I don't even know his name. I got love for all of it, right? So this is, I don't know about y'all, I feel empathetic, I feel like I can feel all the emotions, and this is probably the 5th day that I woke up and I've cried. So thinking about dealing with all of it, that's what motivates me. That's what the tears come. That's where the pain, that's when I choke up. It's just because I love us so much. I'm willing to put everything on the line for it, right? So this is probably only, day 3 or day 4 of all of this. So we're still very early. So the fact that we're having these conversations, I don't believe this is going to end anytime soon. And I think it's going to change and transform and mute in a lot of different ways that we may not even be able to foresee. Right. I think that we're in a time, it's extreme, but this is almost like a civil war, right? Because you have to choose sides, brothers versus brothers, sisters versus sisters. You got to decide. And this is not something where silence or inaction is even an option. So, this is more of this ramble. This is going to be a larger conversation, but just how I'm feeling, I feel impassioned. I feel honored to be on this call. I feel like I'm very radical, but I'm old enough in my life. I'm old enough in my struggle and my own journey with the struggle that I know that there's a whole larger spectrum, and it takes tact, and it takes putting a plan together, and it takes a strategy. So yeah, just glad to be on this call.
Right. I had posted something on Facebook the other day pretty much saying that everybody is necessary in order for us to move in any direction. You know, like Jazz said, the looters and protesters are definitely two different entities and two different things that's happening. Looters are opportunists trying to take advantage of chaos, and protesters are actually out there trying to get something done, right? The thing about it is, how can we, I guess, channel that same energy? Because like next week, the emotion and the energy is not going to be the same as it was the day after it happened. We all know that that's a reality. You know what I'm saying? After the hashtags die down and after things start moving forward, and then, you know, you got states getting ready to open back up, and then people start going back to work and stuff like that, the energy is not going to be the same. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how do we keep that same energy going forward? It's an important year, man. It's an election year. And, you know, like I said, for me, I feel like if law enforcement reform doesn't take place in some sort of way, things is really, really going to get ugly. This is just the tip of the iceberg, if you ask me.
I would like to, if I may, and I haven't met all you brothers, but I'm Kurt.
What up, Kurt?
What's up, man? I would like to offer a alternative perspective.
All right.
And my perspective is, I think that although this is bad, and we do recognize that, you know, it actually goes beyond looters. These are actually a terrorist organization, Antifa. They're professional anarchists. There's videos on social media showing them paying people who look like us. That their job is to co-opt any movement. So let's put that aside. But I think, and then you can get into the whole debate versus violent versus nonviolent. I do not agree with the destruction, but I am going to say this. You know, I have a home in Charleston, South Carolina. When Charleston 9 happened and Dylann Roof murdered all those people, they peacefully protested in South Carolina. There was no change. Walter Scott, there was no change. Now, I don't claim to be an extremist, but what I am saying is, when now that the larger white America is feeling the effects of the looting and the rioting, I think we have people's attention. And I actually have a different perspective. I believe for the first time, Caucasian Americans are for the first time in their life cannot ignore that systemic racism exists. I seen this morning that Bank of America just pledged $1 billion, which is troubling in and of itself to me, because Bank of America, along with Wells Fargo, has been one of many companies that have propagated this systemic system of racism. You know, my father is a multimillionaire. My father has an 840 credit score. My father tried to refinance his house last year and was denied. So they've told us, and they've told us this, if you have great credit, you got great payment history, that's going to solve the problems. So police brutality, in my opinion, is just one manifestation of systemic racism in this country. So what my wife and I have done, we're in the process of putting together a grassroots movement, because everything you said is right. Once all the emotion dies down, and policies are not implemented and enacted, what's to make sure that the system corrects itself. So now you're starting to see on the news accountability. I seen another news report a couple of days ago where a white officer put his neck on, put his knee on the neck of another individual, different state, and the officer pushed his knee off. So what we're getting is you got a group of people who have operated with utter base power. There's been no accountability in system. I actually believe that the police system has a culture of this, and I don't even think it's a white-black thing. I think that's the culture. But again, a lot of the folks who lead these organizations are, you know, supremacists. And, you know, if you go back and you look at the badges of our current officers, they look like the slave catcher badges from yesteryear. So the badges look the same. So that system has promulgated and crept into this system, and we continue to propagate it. But and I'll close. My closing thoughts are: now that recognition has happened, I believe change. And now you got the white pastor standing up. See, we didn't create this system, And so it's the onus on us to fix the system. It's not on us. The people who instituted this system have to change it. And so now that white America is finally saying, okay, we recognize it's a problem. Now, they wouldn't have recognized it was a problem, I believe, if it was peaceful. But now that their buildings are being torn up, now that they're being rioted, now that they're feeling the effects for the first time in America, they're walking around with fear like we do. Now it's a problem. Now, you still got your racists out there saying, you know, I want this to stop, but they need to stop the rioting. Well, first of all, we're not doing all the rioting. Look at the and you got just as many white Americans stealing stuff out of Target as you got black. And so we in this country have statistically made this a black-white issue, and it's not, it's a people issue. And it won't be fixed until the hearts of people change. But now, white America, for the first time in the history that I'm aware of, is having open conversation. So I'm thankful for people like John Gray and Steve Frederick down in those church pastors down in North Carolina and South Carolina, that they're having the conversation and making it acceptable to have the conversation.
Right. That's good,
I think if I may, I believe that we're looking for something that's never gonna occur. We're looking for people's hearts to change because of what they saw. Like we for white America to see the knee in the guy's neck and he dies, for them to find some type of sympathy or empathy, if you would, for us and say, okay, do you like us now? Okay, don't you feel sorry for us now? Okay, aren't you going to change the way you view us now? Racism does not change that way, because even if the system or the police were restricted to change their tactics, it's going to be other, like the gentleman just said. There's going to be other systemic oppressions that could be applied on you. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's financial, whether as far as the prison system, whether as far as education. Even if they're not killing you that way, they're going to kill you this way. And this is why I always say, we can only be responsible for us. Because no one mentioned that 30-something people got shot in Chicago over Memorial Day weekend. 10 of them died, black on black crimes. Now, we don't even know these people's names, do we? But we know the name of the people who a white cop killed. Because basically, the way we live in the last 5 years is Black Lives Matter when white people killed them. But Black lives don't matter when black people killed them. So how could we build up strength in a nation with ourselves if we're not paying attention to how we conduct ourselves? We can't stop a person from being racist. No. We can't stop people from hating black people. No. But we can stop black people from hating black people. And I believe this will give us the strength to prevail. And how can we stand up against a common oppressor if we lose within ourselves? This is a war. We've been at war since day one. So during a war, you have to worry about the people that's on your side, sniping you. You know what I'm saying? Sticking a knife in your back. Why you have to fight this whole big group of people who have the power? They already have the power. They got the numbers. You know what I'm saying? We like 12% in America. So with us being loose is what makes us more mentally and physically infiltratable. We're manipulating on all different levels. Okay, a black guy dies from a police knee in his neck. Y'all want to go take Jordans? That make you want to put on some Jordans? Do you realize how silly that is? Y'all want to steal stuff from the Gucci store? What kind of statement is that making? You understand what I'm saying?
And I'm gonna keep this brief, but I think what we're seeing with and everyone. I mean, we recognize that Antifa is inciting the rioting, but the result of the rioting is the result of folks who've not been hurt. They've run out of options. But what I am gonna say this, and what makes this different from the civil rights movement of yesteryear with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X was we were just coming out of segregation. Now you have more interracial dating. You got white America with black grandkids. So now this spike is becoming more personal. Now, if we go back and roll back the times, we had our first black president last administration. It's not enough of us to put that man in office. We don't, like my man said, we only got 16% of the population. So now, and then let me also say that this new millennium generation, this new, they ain't got no fear. And you're seeing, and they hate the notion of, now I'm not saying all, because we know that racism is taught, but it's enough of them that hate this systemic racism. And that's really who's leading this charge. It ain't us. It ain't us. It's not our fathers. It's this new breed. You see these 16, 17, 18, 20-year-olds, they out here leading this charge. And so if we got any change of this happening, it's going to come through them because we failed. We failed and our grandfathers failed. But if we're going to get true sustainable change, like you said, number one, white America, number one, has to wake up. And I think that is happening. It's a shame that it took all these years for that to happen, but there's a reawakening happening. I'm getting personal messages saying, what can I do? White people are putting their money where their dollars are. You're right. You cannot legislate the morality and ethical behavior. You can't, but you can make it harder to make folks just be blatant racist. So the policies and stuff definitely have to change. But this change was not led by us, and it won't be. It's going to have to be led by white America. And because the millenniums have no fear, and because their parents are not able to give them valid answers for why they're hating their brother, it's just not sustainable. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's going to always get 100. Well, I never thought I was going to see a black president in my lifetime either. So I'm not going to tell you that the seed of racism is going to disappear. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is now it's being shined under a microscope. So this is the time to actually institute grassroots efforts to strike while the iron's hot. So once people go back, because right now they're uncomfortable, and in comfort and discomfort, we change. So what I'm saying is while they're uncomfortable, this is the time where we need to get out organizing in terms of legislative policy, because senators are trying to get reelected in the next 2 years, 2022. You got this new administration, which I recognize where that, I won't even touch that. I recognize where we are with this administration from a race relations perspective. But right now, senators, mayors, elected officials are willing to hear the policy conversations. If we don't change policy, once all the emotions die, if policies are not changed to hold police accountable, to address the unemployment inequalities, to address financial institutions. Bank of America gave $1 billion. It's a step in the right direction. If we don't strike politically, then we've lost the opportunity. And you are right, my brother. It will stay the same if we don't enact legislation.
Facts. Let me hop in there because I agree with you, brother. I just been taking some notes. I'm going to try to run through them real quickly. First and foremost, it really feels like it's all hands on deck, right? So all who can should do. It don't matter if you're not the one out on the front line. If you understand, right, if you work with kids, what you can do is continue to build them up, right? Build yourself up. Allow them to understand that we're not victims. Like you said, let them know that we are proud people. We just have to fight. And that's just how it goes. Everybody has a role and responsibility. Number one would be, I would say, educating ourselves and our people. So for the last couple of days, I've been reading and watching just a lot of speeches, just really trying to study what our ancestors have done in this country, what has worked and what has not, right? So I've been watching the Children's March. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that. I can share all these links in the group chat. But the Children's March talking about young energy, talking about when King was locked up in Birmingham jail. It was young people, 8 to 18, that were out there on the front lines getting hit with water hoses, that were getting bit by dogs. So right, this movement wasn't started by 30, 35, 40-year-olds. It was really 20, 21, 22-year-olds that are out here right now. The Black Power mixtape is a good one. 13th by Ava DuVernay is a good one. Like you said, brother, the second point I would say is political change. Like you said, if we really want to demand things, we have to understand who's up for re-election and what candidates are out there that are speaking on our behalf and start holding them accountable. And granted, it may be like, all right, we're at this point in this particular election, but then from here on out, we need to start building up our own candidates, right? So if you're talking to kids, you're working with kids, get them engaged in political policy. Get them engaged in understanding who's around them, getting them engaged. Like if all of us can't say who are our assembly members that are up for election and what seats are open, who are our state senators, who are our U.S. senators, who are our Congress members, who are our mayors, who are the commissioners, the county clerks, the city council, the school board, every single one of them should be radically Black people or radical people willing to put it all for Black change. And if it's not, that right there is a huge point that systematically for our people, we could be putting in on every single level. Get Black people, get motivated people into office. Number 3, I'm not big on tripping on the looters. I'm not for burning stuff down. I do understand how the government works. We know how COINTELPRO works. We know how they put people in to just start things, and we know how CNN fuels fear and how they push that and propagate that. So to me, if shit's gonna burn down, excuse my language, if Target's gonna burn down, cool, whatever. Target has made so much money off of the black community. They put so many black faces. Remember last year that girl that had the shampoo in there? She's like, I love Target, giving black people a chance. Target should be on the front line talking about how they with the protesters and how they're with Black lives and how they're willing to put their money where their mouth is. So if I'm thinking about all this aftermath, what should come after is we should look at our black real estate developers. We should look at our black contractors. We should look at our black entrepreneurs, because for the first time in history, we may actually get the leeches that leech off the black community out of the black community. So if they don't want to deal with the burnt down buildings afterwards, that's fine. We have enough money and power and resources within our own community to buy up these places and then start putting minded people, minded entrepreneurs, minded business people to start rebuilding our own community in a way we see it on a systematic level across the entire country. And then the fourth thing is radical police reform. I can send over some notes. My girlfriend is a lawyer who also works in the movie industry out here. So her and I have been putting a lot of thought into what does comprehensive police reform look like. And even one of the things we thought yesterday is that police that have what is it? We police brutality. We put we complain. Any police that has complaint or has been brought up on police brutality charges, they should have a record that follows them around just like any other person. They should not be easy for them to get a job. They should not be able to go to another police station. They should not be able to go to Walmart. Just like how if somebody does something inappropriate with kids, that's on them forever. If you're a bad policeman, that should be with you every single where you go for the rest of your life. And that's how we get some comprehensive change. And those are just 4 thoughts that I have, but I'm here with you, brother. You talk about community organizing. Please put me in on anything, because I really believe in my people and I believe in change. So, yeah.
Well said, Neff. So one of the things that I definitely believe, and I appreciate everybody's feedback, man. This is really good. I think that everybody has great perspective and points on, what we can all do collectively. Everybody needs to play their part, and they can play their part in a numerous amount of ways in order to push things forward. I definitely am all for, going to vote. I've been saying it for a long time. Local, state elected officials, we need to win. I mean, I don't know what me personally, I identify more as an independent when it comes to politics. Some things I actually might even be more conservative right than I am left. But, I can't really see the people right now that the Senate majority passing any type of legislation for serious law enforcement reform. So it's definitely imperative that we go out to the polls and vote and exercise our right to vote. One of the things that I also feel like is that as men, man, like as men in our communities and as men in our households, I think that Jazz, what you was talking about the looters and, people just taking advantage of a situation and things like that. I'm not for looting either. But what I am for is passing on knowledge and passing on wisdom. And I feel like not enough times do we get the opportunity to pass along wisdom and knowledge to other people that may be acting out in a way that's not acceptable, or doing things that's really not helping the cause, but more so hurting the cause. I think that, me personally, I try to just be an example for people when it comes to, just a relationship or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like part of the reason why we have a lot of people, especially in particular the young people and young men, is because our household has been broken down for so long. You know what I'm saying? And that goes way back. So how do we bring that back? How do we draw that back? How do we, get some of these young people and help them to channel that looting energy towards something that's a lot more productive. You know what I'm saying? Something that can really be of some effect, because once you burn Target down, Target gonna be back up and running in a few weeks. You know what I'm saying? So taking that same energy a year from now, you know, how do we channel that? How do we get them more knowledge? How do we, you know, just because the younger people, we definitely can use them. You know, we just got to be able to help them to channel that energy into another direction. I know, like Chris said, you work with the youth. So, you know, you right there on the front lines with them. You know, you get to be right there with them and planting. And then you used to work with trouble youth too, right, Chris? Chris Davis. Yeah, you used to work with trouble youth. So getting that energy channeled in the right direction towards like West, I'm gonna call you West Coast Chris for the sake of this call. For the sake of the call, like West Coast Chris was saying, you know, getting that true law enforcement reform that's needed in order to you know, ensure that things like this don't continue to happen. I definitely think that police officers having a record that follows them around is definitely a great idea. I think that that's a dope idea. And I would definitely like to see something like that go forward.
Yeah. I would like to say on something that I would like to hit on something you just said, and the gentleman before you just was speaking of was about politics, about getting the right people in office to assemblymen, aldermen, or whatever we have in our cities that's going to make things better, or even the mayor and all these elections. And you said make sure you get out there and vote. What we have to understand is this conversation that we're having, us 6 gentlemen or 5 or 6, the average person that's looting between 16 and 28 years old, they would be bored with this. Because if there's a communication gap from where we stand and where they stand. Think about this. When we were 18, 19, 20, we didn't care about who won an election, or we didn't care about politics. And most Black people are politically ignorant, for lack of a milder term. We're speaking from our perspective. We seem to be intelligent gentlemen on this line here, but most people have so much other things going on in their life where they're dealing with survival. They don't care about who's going to be an assemblyman, a councilman, the mayor, even the president. They don't care.
But you know what, Jazz? Let me jump in right quick. What I'll say to that, Jazz, is we have access to the most powerful culture in the world, right? Hip hop culture is the most powerful culture in the world.
Right.
And the thing about that is, I feel like more people that are at the top of hip hop culture should be held more accountable. You know what I'm saying? Like, hip hop culture is powerful, and everybody's not exercising their power and using their platform. I love what Killer Mike does. You know what I'm saying?
I love that too. T.I.
I love what T.I. does. I love what Jay-Z's doing. You know what I'm saying? They all move in different ways, but they move effectively. You know what I'm saying? And I think that we don't take full advantage of the power that hip hop culture has over the globe. You know what I'm saying? So those people that you are talking about who may not be thinking about elections and things of that nature, they can, you know what I'm saying? If you get
unfortunately, not to interject you, but unfortunately, those people, those 3 individuals you named, Jay-Z, Killer Mike, T.I., I love what they're doing. But you and I look at them. The strength, like the gentleman said, we dropped the ball. The 18-year-old dudes are pushing it. They don't listen to those people. They listen to the baby. They're listening to people who are like them.
Right. So how do I guess the older heads access the baby and say, look, you know, this is what needs to happen, so that the baby's followers, you know, people are followers, man, and people will do whatever you tell them to do.
Right.
You know, most people are just followers, man. They follow
Absolutely.
anything.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So if the baby decide to make some sort of change in the way that he's putting himself forward and decide that he's going to do this, his followers is going to follow.
And that's where I was going with it.
Mm-hmm.
If we could get to the baby them and get them to be more responsible and take accountability for their lyrics and understand that they're leading a nation of young Black men. If somehow we could penetrate that, like what was penetrated in the late 80s with KRS-One, X-Clan, Poor Righteous Teachers, all these people that we were following, Public Enemy, Fight the Power. You know what I'm saying? So if we could get these people to stop giving up the ignorance, we could win this thing. But we have a better chance.
Interject two things. Number one, when we talk about the apathy of Black people or the fact that this may be boring to them, right? We're in a different place. We can sit and have these conversations. We talk about hip hop, and when we talk about apathy, I want to keep in mind all of this was before 2020 happened. 2020 was a burning of what was before. 22 million people have lost their job because of Corona. I think more people are willing to speak up and hear these conversations, whether the baby is saying it, whether Hove is saying it. We can see it in the streets, like the energy is there. So I do feel you, but I do believe that there are a lot of people, young and old, that are like just ready, that are willing to have the conversations, that don't find this boring. And I think we should amplify those voices and keep pushing and build strategy. And then all the other people, if they want to come, they will come. And if they're not, they just need to get out the way. It's about the people who are here. It's about the people that have the energy. It's about the people that are willing to have the conversation. And granted, we could try to spend time converting Lil Baby and Dub Baby and YB in the mirror to speak out on this. But what we could do is, I can give you a list of rappers and people that are 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 that are speaking up on this. Let's just highlight them. Forget the other ones. How about we just stop supporting the baby until he speaks out? I listen to Griselda all the time. Conway the Machine just dropped a political song speaking out about the oppressions that are happening to Black kids in Buffalo. So it's a lot happening, and I think it's on us to highlight those, because it's not about what's being said, it's about how it's being said. So if we're giving the medicine in the food, it's not early 2000s where we're hearing Black Star being ignored. We can actually propel those voices to the top.
Right.
Let me offer a contrary thought process.
Well,
So a lot of the Jews, let's just go right there. The Jews own the record industry. And these same record industry execs, most of them have a ownership stake in the prison industrial complex.
Facts. That's a big fact.
So they are not incentivized. If I'm signed to pick your favorite record label, if I'm signed to said record label, I am de-incentivized to speak against this. So my thought process is, let the young guys do what they're gonna do. They got an energy we just ain't got no more. And then the old heads, those who don't want to be on the front line for whatever reason, we got too much responsibility. We got all these things going on in our life. We fight on the back end on the political side. But the younger generation has done a great job in inciting conversation. However we got here, people can agree or disagree, how we even got to the point where we're having this discussion as a country. We've been having these conversations in the barbershop for a long time. But as a country, we finally got there. How we got there, I could care less. We're there, and recognize that the system, which we're talking about the system of racism, which police brutality is just one manifestation of that. The system is designed to perpetrate this narrative. So those who are educated about the political system and those who are aware, we are, and no one is going to tell our message like us. And you said something earlier, Lamar, that basically that you didn't think that at the national level they were going to change police reform. I agree with you. But we can start attacking it at the state level. I'm going to do it in the states. I go back and forth between the two states in which I'm in. I'm going to start having these conversations at the level in which I have influence. But just like we can talk about the legalization of marijuana, it started at the state level. But now it's reached such a climax that the federal government cannot ignore it, and there is now actual legislation on the floor of the House, because bills are initiated in the House, that are now looking at something because it has reached a catalyst in our country. It's too many. It's too big to ignore. And so, agreed, I don't think you're going to see legislation at the national level, but we have to start grassroots at the states level. And just like this has been a long stretch for the marijuana decriminalization, we're going to have a fight on our hands with this as well, but we have to start somewhere. Not starting is an excuse, and it's negligent on our part as a people.
Right. Cool. Hey, so we coming up on almost an hour. I'm gonna just finish up real quick. I appreciate everybody coming on the line. I think ultimately we all had really, really good points, and really it was a really productive conversation. I actually might, start doing this a little bit more often. Without the dialogue amongst each other, like we can't move in the same direction if we don't really know what each individual is doing. You know what I'm saying? And like I said before at the beginning of the conversation, we all have a circle that we move in, right? And we can be impactful in that circle, however big or small it may be. Just to share a little story real quick. So yesterday, I was driving home, and I was riding, and I saw this guy, and his car was stopped in the middle of the road, and he had his flashers on. So obviously, his car was either broke down or something like that. And as I'm riding by, I see an officer getting ready to pull up behind him. So something in my spirit was like, yo, turn around. So I turned around and I went back. And I pulled up, and I seen that the officer had got out the car and, was talking to the guy at the window. So I pulled up and I was like, yo, you good? And, him and the officer kind of both looked at me. The officer was like, yeah, you might be able to help, if you got a gas can. And, the guy was like, yeah, I ran out of gas. So, I pulled over, and I was like talking to the guy and the officer, and I was like, you know what, say no more. I'm gonna run right around the corner, because the gas station was like literally 2 minutes away. I said, I'm gonna run around the corner real quick. I'm gonna fill up the gas can. I'm gonna come right back. In the meantime, the officer pushed him over to the side of the road to get him out the way. And when I came back, the officer was gone. I gave the guy the gas and got him on his way and got him going. One thing that I noticed in that interaction was that, for one, I can already kind of feel the tension on the part of the officer, and on the part of the guy who was over on the side of the road. It's just like a heightened level of tension, and I don't even really usually get that heightened level of tension where I live at. And it's just something I picked up on. And the reason why I shared that is because, I think that if we really kind of do our part in kind of like looking out for each other, I could have kept it moving. You know what I'm saying? I could have kept it moving and went home and never looked back. But I seen a brother on the side of the road, and I was like, yo, let me check on him and make sure he's good. And, the police officer didn't even really have to be involved with it. One thing that bothers me is that a few weeks ago in Michigan, you had a bunch of citizens protesting with their rifles and their pistols in front of the courthouse or city hall or wherever they was at, exercising their right to bear arms and to assemble. And the president came out and said, these are good citizens, right? If we were to do anything like that, we thugs. It's not going to happen. So I think that the last thing I'll say, I think that to kind of support the point that Jazz was talking about, until we also develop a higher level of respect and self-respect for ourselves, it's hard to demand certain things. I really have had very, very few negative encounters with police officers. Most of the time I had those encounters was when I was younger. I was probably in my 20s. But as I got older, you know, there's a certain level of respect that I try to command as a man. You know what I'm saying? I offer you a certain amount of respect as a grown man, and I expect a certain amount of respect back. And I think that our lack of self-respect as men is also part of the reason why it's hard to demand things like Jazz was saying earlier. So I think that all of us definitely are a great representation of what men can be. I think that continuing to be an example for people who may not know what to do, or they may feel like looting is the way to go, or they may feel like I don't know where I can be of help or be of assistance. You know, being an example to reach some of those people is a good thing. You know, bring them to the polls with you. You know, bring them to you know, pull over like I did and do certain things for them so they can just see an example. You know what I'm saying? And everything else that everybody mentioned on this call was really great. I would like to see, you know, more people on this call. I'm like I said, I may do it again, just so we can just be clear with each other, man. One thing because like Neff was saying, you know, the Black Power mixtape and all of those documentaries and things of that nature. I love to watch how organized the Black Panther movement was. You know, you had all of the different chapters. You know, you had a sense of pride and strength amongst our community. And, you know, J. Edgar Hoover was like, yo, you gotta X that. That's dangerous. You know what I'm saying? J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI wasn't trying to hear it. You know, so they started trying to knock us off, and they were successful in doing so. And the root of that was divide and conquer, right? And that's still the root of it to this day. You know, so I see people, you know, on social media, I see people out in public, our people amongst our community disagreeing on issues when it's really okay to disagree on issues. It's not a problem. But when you disagree on something and tell somebody that their issue is stupid because you don't agree with it, that's absurd to me. I feel like we all have great input. And, you know, that's one thing I try to preach to everybody is like, yo, we may differ in opinion and we may have different approaches, but ultimately we all trying to go after the same thing, and that's change, right?
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, we all want to see change. We just have different approaches. And however different our approaches may be, they all can work together for the greater good of the community and for us as Black men and my brothers, right?
Facts.
So I guess we're going to end it right there. Anybody else got anything they want to jump in real quick?
Can I make one last quick point? Number one, thank you for putting this together.
Yeah.
Shoot, where 2 or 3 are gathered, man, great, dope things are gonna happen. I'm down for a group text. I don't know, whatever, a way to keep this conversation going, because it's 9 o'clock for me. I might have more ideas throughout the day, and it would be dope to just keep bouncing them. If anybody else is down for a group text, you know what I'm saying, include me. Number 2, my background is politics and organizing in general. So if I could get like a list of what counties you guys represent or are part of, I could do my own little, what I know about politics, and then understand what's happening systematically on a top to bottom level in your particular community. That could be ways to kind of offer help or advice, or say, hey, do you know that this commissioner is dope and y'all really should be elevating him to city council level, because that would kind of make dynamic change. You know what I mean? I have that knowledge, and God gave it to me for whatever. So if I'm down to help and use it, I'm trying to. Last thing, we are men, we are strong, we are protectors, and we have to protect our village from top to bottom. That goes to kids, that goes to queens, and that goes our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ community too. We don't gotta understand or even gotta agree, but the point of the matter is their life, their emotion, their pain, their struggle is just as important as ours. And in our life and our struggle won't matter until every single Black life matters, rich or poor, gay or straight. So I'm cool on that.
Right. Hey, hold on to that information, man. I definitely had quite a few people that wanted to be on the call. this morning, but wasn't able to get on due to like work obligations and things of that nature. So I definitely think that this was productive. So I'm gonna schedule another one. So look at your text message for another one. It may be like a week from now or a week and a half from now. So Chris, hold on to that information and
Yes,
you
sir.
know, be prepared to bring it back. So we could try to get everybody on the call that I spoke out to, and then, you know, who knows, maybe from there, you know, you can bring in some more people, and you know, we can open it up to a larger thing. So I'm definitely gonna
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
do it again.
Yes, sir.
Man, I appreciate every one of y'all, man. Blessings to y'all and your families. And let's do it, man. Let's keep it moving
Blessings.
forward,
Let's do it.
man.
Let's do it.
If nothing else, man, y'all have a good one, man. Y'all take care.
I
Love
mean,
y'all. Y'all have a blessed day.
All right, bro.
Have a good one.
Later.